This week's episode is brought to you in part by MPix, delivering the highest quality prints and products from your photos. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow.
Welcome to Photoshop User TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
Well, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Photoshop User TV. I'm Corey Barker, and this week we've got two new, well, kind of new faces, but you weren't here last week.
No.
Everybody remembers RC. RC, good to see you.
Hey everybody, good to see you. Good to see you.
He's got some cool Lightroom stuff for us a little bit later, and Mr. Pete Collins.
That's right, I'm here.
He's here. And that's about the best we can get out of him.
Yep.
Now, let me go ahead and just take this off. I'm just going to show you guys a quick Lightroom tip on how to be able to keep yourself organized, as well as how to be able to play with certain things. So when you're working inside of Lightroom, more often than not, what'll happen is you'll import your card. So I took a series of shots, and the first thing that I do is I take it out of the camera and I throw it into the computer. Before you start getting used to doing any kind of processing, what I would recommend you do is you use your previous import section. This is going to be the one area where you're going to have all of your images in one spot for one shoot. Right off the bat from here, I would go ahead and start doing my rejects and picks and rejects and picks. And I get everything set up into a situation where I know exactly what images I'm going to be selecting for a collection, and I know exactly what images I'm going to be deleting. Once I have that set, what I would recommend you do is you come down here under your collection section and create a collection set. So by creating collection sets, you have the option to be able to throw collections inside of them. So collection sets and collections are a little hard to kind of get your head around. Kelby Training has got some classes on how to be able to organize yourself. But right off the bat, before you do anything in the all photos or anything, throw them into a collection set. So what I'll do is I have a collection set in here called Shoot One Studio. And what I'll do is inside of there, I'll create a collection called All Shots. I'll make another collection called Rejected. I'll make another collection called Pick. So inside of collection sets, you can go ahead and store other collection sets. This makes it a lot easier for you to be able to kind of navigate. So if I'm doing a model shoot, I know all my model shoots are in here. These are all the models that I'm working with. Then let's say I go to Brad Slaughter. I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in here so you can see. So there's Brad. I click on that. Well, I can shoot Brad more than once. I could have 5 different shoots of Brad. So a collection set goes inside of here, Shoot One Studio. Then inside of there, that's where I have all shots. I can right click in here, make another collection. I'll call this Rejects. That'll go inside of there. I'm gonna right click, make another collection, and called Picks. Now let's go ahead and rename it real quick.
You almost got it right.
Right, so there's Picks. So now, that's how I set everything up. I'll usually then throw all of the images right inside of there, and then at this point, I can go ahead and just sort. After I do my rejected, drag them into the rejected section. Oh, let's go ahead and...
So you're not deleting them completely, you're just putting them...
Because there's some instances where when you're working with this, you can't delete them. Sometimes, your client doesn't require that you don't delete them. Sometimes you just feel a bit of a pack rat, and you don't, necessarily want to delete them, or you want to be able to show them to the client at a later point. I'll take my picks, and I move my picks over into this one area. So now I have all my shots, I have all my picks, and I have all my rejects inside of one section for one shoot, for one model. Organizing yourself that way makes it a lot easier. The final tip that I have here for you is this. You'll notice that inside of here, if you're looking at this picture, you'll see that there's a series of icons here, right? So there's a change, and then inside of here, there's another symbol. If you click on the symbols, it'll most likely take you to whatever effect you've done. So a couple of things to be able to move around and organize inside of Lightroom.
Nice, very nice. All right, so let's switch gears over to Photoshop from Lightroom over to Pete. What do you got?
Well, what I've got for you today is more of a tip/tutorial on something that you might not know about. If you were to go and talk to people about plugins, a lot of times it scares people. But there's a really neat plugin that you can get for free over at Adobe Labs. And if you were just to Google Adobe Labs or go labs.adobe.com, you'll come up with this web page which is Adobe Labs, and it gives you some previews of some different things. But one of the things I wanted to show you was down on June 27th is Adobe Pixel Bender plugin for Adobe Photoshop CS5. Now, what that is it's simply a free plugin that they give you once you download it and follow the download steps. You will then have to restart your Photoshop, but what it will then do is when you take an image, you can go in there, you can hit your filter, and down at the bottom here, it's got Pixel Bender. And if you choose Pixel Bender Gallery, it'll give you a lot of different options. Now, most of these options in here are pretty funky, and you won't ever use them. I can't figure out why you would want to use this one so that you could have a radius and you could bring this over to the center and do some funky things, but it's just weird. But the one that you will want to play with is oil paint. And what oil paint does, the nice thing is this is all processed on the GPU, which means it's faster, it's real time. It gives you this kind of oil paint, swirly, unique texture that you can come in and you can play with right there on the screen and watch it change. If I bring it all the way, stylization all the way down, it creates less of an effect, whereas if I bring it all the way up, it gives you a lot more painterly feel. You can change your brush size. You can go really big, and it starts to look, you know, really Van Gogh-ish.
And the cool part about most of that stuff is that you tend to see it a lot in real time. So it's a very expressive
it's very
thing.
fluid.
It's very intuitive too. You get in here and you play, and you can knock down the colorization, which I don't know why you'd ever want to do that, unless you're colorblind like me. And then you want to go up like this and really saturate with color, but you can play. And the wonderful thing about it is that once you've finished with it, you could always take and do it again a little bit different and then apply some blending modes. It really just gives you a wonderful palette to play with that you can see in real time, and it just gives you this wonderful texture that you might not be able to get anywhere else. You can create some neat backgrounds and pull some, just the way these things go in here on this fur creates a wonderful swirl that you might want to use somewhere else to create a texture map.
Like a bunch of other filters that just give you outrageous results, you know, and this one actually is.
And the thing with that is also the fact that Adobe's relying a lot of this stuff on the GPU, right? So the GPU, it's a graphics processing unit that sits inside of your computer. So what they've done is by setting up Photoshop CS5 to be able to have access more to the GPU, have access more to that thing, it separates your processor to all of a sudden take all of the heavy lifting and it puts it into the graphics section. And they've done some really, really interesting things inside of Photoshop just because of that. The fact that you can access that GPU makes really, really interesting effects like this possible. So, you know, Pixel Bender and the Pixel Bender community and all of that kind of stuff, there's a lot of different things that are out there that you can download for free to be able to work with.
Not to mention other cool stuff that's on Labs. I mean, they always post really interesting new releases, pre-releases they'll tend to have on the
See, and I knew you'd dig this because it's like I knew, like as an artist, I knew that.
It's very painterly, but the whole thing about the Labs is a lot of people don't know it's there and don't know to go there and see what's going on there. And the nice thing is once you start playing with it, you can get all kinds of neat stuff. And this was just one of the images that I was able to create just playing around using Pixel Bender and some other things. And just having fun with it. You know, Photoshop should be fun, and I love it.
I always say, experiment, experiment, experiment. All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a very special guest come in and show us some cool stuff, and then we'll be right back to us right here in the studio. So hang with us, we'll be right back.
Wouldn't it be cool if we lived in a Photoshop world where you can composite everything in? Start off with some grass down here. Let's make it a sunny day. Put a tree in the back. Let's do one over here for some more shade. Add a couple of birds. Somebody to share the couch with.
What's up, Matt?
Or,
hi, honey.
much better, let's add a kid.
Hey, Dad, look at me.
Why not two?
Gotcha.
You gotta have a family dog. Throw some text in this, and now you have your own family reality TV show. Folks, my name is Matt Kluskowski. That's exactly the kind of thing we're gonna do in my brand new book, Photoshop Compositing Secrets. In this book, I've got 15 different projects that teach you a whole bunch of different styles when it comes to compositing. We'll cover Photoshop effects, and we'll cover the selections that you need to create totally realistic composites. Whether it's a sports composite to show off a single athlete, or a business or a corporate composite, or just a group family photo where everybody wants to be together, but they couldn't all be there at the same time. Those are the kind of techniques, those are the kind of composites that we're gonna create in this book. If you're just starting out, or if you're as passionate about this stuff as I am, I hope you'll check out my brand new book, Photoshop Compositing Secrets.
Welcome back, everybody, to the brief episode of Photoshop User TV. Now, remember, we're brought to you by Photoshop User magazine. You're getting there. You're getting there.
Training.
It's almost good.
10 times a year.
That's right.
You get all kinds of cool stuff in there.
Make sure you take a look at it at PhotoshopUser.com. Now, we have a special guest. You know what? I'm not even going to tell you who it is. Take a look at this.
Well, hey everybody, I'm on the set of Photoshop User TV with Erik Valind, who is he's a commercial, portrait, lifestyle photographer, all kinds of different stuff actually, but mostly portraits in the commercial lifestyle type range. And Erik is somebody that we met, we met years ago, but you might have seen him around. If you've ever been to Photoshop World, you might have seen him around the Westcott booth. You do some demos there and whatnot. So definitely a very up and coming name in the photography industry, also in Photoshop as well. So first off, welcome.
Cool.
Thanks for coming by, man.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And so you use a lot of the photographers that are out there today are adopting Lightroom as part of their workflow. So you pretty much start in Lightroom, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Lightroom is what I import all my images with. I do most of my basic tweaks and global adjustments and stuff there. I mean, some brush work, but then I go into Photoshop, and Photoshop's where I do my contrast, my sharpening, and then I bring it back into Lightroom. Okay. And then, from there I export depending on where it's going, print, web, whatever.
Cool. So you were going to talk to us a little bit about collections.
Yes, absolutely.
You kind of have a different way that you use them, so I'm interested to see.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
All right, cool. We'll jump right in. Cool. We were out shooting some tips for a D-Town earlier this morning, and so we've got some great shots from that. But I literally just put them all into the computer. I just imported them, put them in one folder, and so I'm going to kind of show you from scratch.
At this point, one big unorganized folder. There's nothing that was done to it at this point.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I was that guy for the last couple of years before I got into Lightroom. Had no folder hierarchy. I mean, it was a mess. I mean, you'd have derivatives and a million different names. So collections have really saved me a whole ton and allowed me to be more organized. So I'll show you what I do with that. First, what I'll do is, like I said, I'll import everything to one folder. I'll usually put a year on there just so I remember when I shot it, and then a small description. And then I'll grab all of them. And before I make any rejections or selections, I'll go ahead and come down here into the metadata, and boom, there we go. So we'll come down here to metadata, and I look for job identifier. Here's where I'll probably put in Justine, that's the name of my model, and I'll put D-Town, because we were shooting some D-Town tips there. And that's going to go ahead, and after I selected everything right off the bat, so when I apply that, that's going to make apply selected, there we go.
So they all get that.
So they all get it. So what I love is how easy it is to apply adjustments to all your images right off the bat. I'm going to go ahead and copy this because I'm going to need to reference that later when I set up my collections. So now that I have them all identified as my model and what we were shooting for, I'm going to go into collections. You've got some default ones here. I'm going to ignore that. First thing I do is I make a collection set. It's like a bin. It's what I name my whole job, and then all my subfolders, which would have been subfolders and are now subcollections, all live in there. So those will be my non-rejected files, any Photoshop files, TIFF files. They'll all live under this one umbrella folder. Okay. So again, I'll call this, Justine, D-Town, tips. So that's where we know we're going. So there we go. So we've got our bucket. Collects everything. From there, smart collections. These are the coolest thing. I mean, you literally give it a bunch of rules and it does all the legwork for you. So right off the bat, I do something called non-rejects. And then I'll go ahead and I have to tell it, which pictures to look for. So again, we called our job Justine D-Town. And I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to put another modifier in here. Pick flags is not rejected. So basically, this smart collection is going to look for all the pictures with that job identifier that haven't been rejected by me. And I'm going to go ahead and hit create. So there you go. It automatically populates. So there's no dragging folders or dragging images to different folders. It knows what it's looking for and it puts it there for me.
Okay.
So now that I've got it all there, I can start going through. I mean, if I look at this one, these are some test shots. I was just grabbing my ambient exposure. I'm just hitting X. I'm marking these as rejected. And you can see just how easily that is. If you look over here on the left-hand side, you'll see that my number is going down.
The number's going down, yeah.
Yep.
Because it's a smart collection, so it's always looking at,
Yeah, so it's constantly updating
I like that.
itself.
It's kind of cool.
So it's once you do that, it's a quick way
to go through there and clean out, maybe the blinks, the lighting test, the behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff. All the things you don't need to be looking at. I mean, just, unclutter your life a little bit. And especially if you're shooting tethered, you've got a client over your shoulder, you don't want them seeing those shots either. So that's a quick and easy way to just get the shots you're looking for and easily, kick out the ones that you're not looking for.
That's very cool.
Yeah. From here, most people, I've seen a lot of people doing star ratings. I get overwhelmed. You think that 5 stars shouldn't be that overwhelming, but
oh, it is, yeah.
Once you get in there at 1, 2, 3, 4 stars, should it be a 2 or 3?
Well, because what really is a 2-star?
Exactly.
It's like it was almost so bad that I deleted it, but I'm going to keep it around.
So somehow,
but how often am I going to want to show those two? How often do you want to show the photos that you almost deleted to somebody?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, should they even be there? No, obviously not, because they're not a 3.
Yeah.
Then what's really a 3?
Yeah,
it's like
that's marginal.
Yeah. So I forgo that altogether. I like the idea of picking one and rejecting one. So I'll go through and quickly I'll go full screen here. So by hitting F, it allows me to go full screen. Shift Tab gets rid of all the other garbage, and then I hit L and it lights out. So I mean, those are some quick shortcuts that very quickly isolate your image. And then I'll go through. No, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. Notice how I'm not rating. I'm just picking. I like that one. I think that's a possibility. I might want to look at that one again. This one, the light didn't fire. We had a misfire. I'm going to hit X. It's going to reject it. I'll never see it again. So there's no wondering, should that even be there? Could I boost the could I boost the exposure? Don't worry about it. I like that one again, so I'll hit pick. And then I can go ahead, hit G, grid. I'm back what I'm looking for. Alt tab brings up my tabs here. And you can see we're narrowing it down again. Now, after I do that first run through, and I have the gut feeling, either I'm really rejecting it or I'm really picking it, I'm going to make another collection over here. So I'm going to go again to create smart collections. Here's where you want to make sure that you got it in the set, which is your large bucket for everything.
Like a big folder.
And I'm going to do picks. Pretty straightforward. And though remembers what my last settings were. In this case, I'm going to make sure my pick flag is flagged. I'm going to create that. And then all the images that I had gone through, I had a strong gut feeling about, all of a sudden are right there.
Oh, okay.
So very, very, very quickly, I went through and I have some of the strongest images I might want to bring into Photoshop or play around with. So it saves me.
Yeah.
I skipped 2, 3, and 4. I guess I just went from the 1-star, no star straight to 5.
Well, and at that point, I mean, you can always go in and unflag them if you don't want it. But
exactly.
I don't use that workflow. I use Lightroom as well. I don't use that workflow, but I might.
Okay.
I like how you do the smart collections, because I'm always doing things and then dragging them into a folder.
Okay. Yes.
Which means that I have to remember to drag them into the folder when I'm done. Because I create the collections like you do, but I don't do smart collections.
Okay.
I just create a collection of picks, which means I have to remember to always drag those picks in there.
Yeah.
And if I forget, then they won't end up in there.
Those guys are out in the cold, and then all of a sudden that guy never sees the light of Photoshop.
All right, I'm going to give it a try next time.
Okay, cool.
Hey,
awesome.
Very cool, man. Well, this isn't your last time here, so we'll be back with some more tips. But in the meantime, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, definitely. Please check out www.erikvalind.com. It's ERIKVALIND. I think it'll be right down there on the bottom somewhere.
Erik with a K.
Erik with a K. Got all kinds of tips behind the scenes
and your
videos.
Facebook, Twitter, everything, any place that you're out there is all on that website.
Really active on Twitter. If you want to know where I'm at, follow travels, and get behind the scenes, look at shoots, I'm all on Twitter all the time. So,
dude,
hey,
thanks for coming by, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Isn't that cool? Nice. That's pretty cool. I like it. I like the little breaks. I think it's a good thing. But before we go any further, you've got a tip.
I do. Actually, it's a really quick one regarding paths and shapes inside of Photoshop. Of course, Photoshop does support vector shapes like it would in Illustrator, but tends to confuse a lot of people. Actually, I had a guy, good friend of mine, a longtime Photoshop user, actually showed him something regarding paths, and he's like, I had no idea. And it's actually kind of the Pathfinder kind of thing, like in Illustrator if you've used it.
Okay.
So if I go up in here into, well, it's actually got to go and select my shape tool here in the toolbar. I'm going to grab the ellipse shape tool. And you always got to decide right away what kind of shape you're going to create. And if you go right here into the top of the options bar, there are 3 icons. You can choose to draw your path as a shape layer, or as a regular path, or as a pixel fill, meaning it will draw the path and then immediately fill it with pixels and rasterize that graphic right away. Now, most commonly, if you're doing a shape tool at all, or shape at all, you're probably going to do it as a shape layer or a regular path. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make it a shape layer, and I've got my color set to blue. I'm going to go ahead and draw out my ellipse shape here. And you can see here in the layers panel, it is merely a color fill with a vector mask on it. Now, the part that I'm talking about, or the tip I'm getting to, let's actually grab another shape. Grab the rectangular shape here. Now what we're talking about is these options right up here, also in the options bar, these right here. And these all allow you to make shapes interact with each other in different ways. You can add to the shape, which is this one right here. You can subtract from it, and you can do an intersect and even excluding. Now the way these kind of work is I'm going to go ahead and set my new shape to subtract from shape. And I'm going to draw out this box like that. Now what you can see is happening here is it is subtracting the area where it overlaps in this shape. And if you look over here in the panel, or the layers panel, you can see that the gray represents the area that's transparent, and the white is your active area. And you can see that shape, that rectangular shape, is subtracting from the white area, the active white area of the circle shape. Now the great thing about vector shapes, of course, is that they are still separate even though they're on the same layer. So I can move them around and reposition it. And you can see how, as a designer, this can be really advantageous. You're doing some trial and error with logos and different things like that. Doing it with vector technology in Photoshop is going to give you a big advantage. Not to mention, it's a little faster. It's resolution independent. Now, going back to these items up here in the options bar, if I change this shape, while it's selected, I can go ahead and change it. Maybe I want it to intersect with the shape, meaning it's only going to show the active area where the two shapes overlap. In this case, this area right in here. And of course, exclude does the exact opposite. Where the shapes overlap, it excludes that area and leaves only the regular area active. So these are important to keep in mind when you are working with the shapes. Whether it's a path or a shape layer, it's going to look the same. In fact, if we go to the paths panel, there you can see it's showing me the same information, recognizing it as a path, but it also recognizes it as a shape layer over here. And remember, that gray area is your non-active transparent area, while the white area is your active area. And this tends to get some people, like if you draw a path, let me go and delete this. If you have a path set to, well, let's grab, and oftentimes you'll, mistakenly set it to subtract from path, and now you're looking at your path differently. Now with a shape layer, it's not as bad, but if it's a path, let's do it as a path. Bear with me. I'm gonna do it as a path, and it's set to negative. You can see the negative symbol on there. If I look at my paths panel, the active area is on the outside right here, meaning my inside of my shape is inactive. So that can be one of those little gotchas when you're working with that, the vector shapes. Just pay attention to the icon and it will tell you exactly what you're dealing with. But that is really how those shapes work. You can, of course, get a lot more information on paths, both RC and I. You just recently released a course on Calvi training on the path tool.
It was a little different because what I wanted to do is I wanted to make a small pen tool course, just talk to you guys about the basics of it, how to be able to work around the sections. And then I kind of wanted that to be kind of a handoff to a course that you'd done where you kind of took it to the next level.
Yeah, it's called Mastering the Pen Tool, and it's all about working with pen tool. And
so mine's like a boot camp. Yours is like turned into a master technique.
Between his course and mine, if you haven't mastered shapes by then, we don't know what to do for you. we give up. So
my next course is going to be mastering the crayon.
Exactly.
There you go.
All right.
I'm going to take his course.
So let's take another quick break, and we'll come back with contests, wrap the show up, and all that good stuff. We'll be back in just a moment. And we're back. So we've got a contest, but we must thank our own sponsor. Well, this entire show, everything is brought to you by the fine folks that bring you this fine magazine right here, PhotoshopUser.
And where can they get that magazine,
Mr. Barker? They can, of course, get it at PhotoshopUser.com, where they can find out more information about becoming a NAP member, which is included in your NAP membership 10 times a year. You get all that Photoshop goodness. Holy cow, I can't stand it. All right, let's go to the contest. All right, well, before we get to the contest, well, we call it a contest, but it really isn't a contest. But before we get to it...
They're messages of love.
The messages of love. What are the prizes they might receive?
Well, Johnny, today we've got a gift card from Adorama.
$10?
Next, we've got this wonderful T-shirt from Mpix.
Valued at $14.95.
Oh, and finally, we've got Your Camera Loves You. Learn to love it back. This is by Cara. Wow. Plekanec?
Let's try.
Sorry.
Let's have a look.
Cara Plekanec. That's here. Let me read to you. Wait, what? You're not thrilled with the photos you're getting from your digital camera? The answer isn't a new camera. It's learning to use the one you've got. Inspiring? You can win this, you can win this, and you can win that.
And how you can win it? By going to kelbytv.com and going to the Photoshop user page. Go to the comment section and just leave us a comment. Tell us how sexy RC is in his black shirt.
I thought you were going to say something about my dramatic reading.
Yes, or his dramatic reading.
My dramatic reading of channeling Cara Placente.
But wait, there's more. The first 15 customers receive a free set of wind chimes.
There you go. Some wind chimes.
Handmade by Pete Collins
himself.
You know somebody's going to want those.
Yeah, I think so.
Certainly leave us a comment. Leave us a clever quote. Who knows? Give us a word. You know, we're always looking for good words for to set the show off. So, but I think that wraps it up for this week. We do want to thank everyone and thank our special guest. So we will see you guys next time for episode 270, or is it 280?
280, probably.
280.
I believe it's 280, yes. All right, so on behalf of myself, Mr. R.C. Concepcion.
Hey, take care, everybody.
And Mr. P. Collins.
Bye, guys.
See you guys next time. Take care.